Hey, sports fans, welcome back to a brand new episode of EBC Sports International. I'm your host tonight, Michael Hudson, coming at you from the Emerald City, Seattle, Washington. So let's introduce to all of you tonight's panel from Toronto, Canada. We have Albert Cece. What's going on, Albert?
What's up, Mike? How's it going, sports fans? Another big day in sports. Let's do this. Let's go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And also from Alexandria, Virginia, we have EJ Gonzalez. How you feeling, E?
What's up, Mike? I'm feeling good, man. Ready to talk some sports. Obviously, lots of NBA playoffs to talk about. Let's do this.
I love it, baby. And lastly, from Washington, D.C., our very own Ken Cruz. What's going on, Ken?
Yo, Luka Magic, 7-7. Game 7 for 77. This guy's the truth.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more there, brother. As always, everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. And we want to remind you that we are by no means sports experts, rather a group of friends giving our own opinions about the sports world. But before we get into our main topics on today's show, we do have some updates from the sports world this week. And so the first one is coming from Albert, who has an NBA update for us concerning the Miami Heat's recent series victory over the Philadelphia 76ers. What's going on, Albert?
Yeah, Mike, the Miami Heat closed out their Eastern Conference semifinal series against the 76ers in 6 games, winning with a final score of 99-90. And the Heat will advance to the Eastern Conference Finals for the second time in just 3 seasons. The Heat turned to their star wing, Jimmy Butler, to close out their game and the series. Butler went for 32 points with 8 rebounds and led the Heat in all the series, which was much needed as Kyle Lowry still nurses his lingering hamstring injury. Butler actually led Miami in 4 of the 6 games that they played against Philadelphia, who now eliminates his former team in the 76ers. In fact, Butler was heard yelling, "Tobias Harris over me?" questioning the 76ers decision to retain the former All-Star over himself. Of course, the 76ers chose to move Jimmy Butler in the offseason in the 2019 season while awarding Harris a 5-year, $180 million contract. Miami was able to find a balance offensively while continuing to be a top-tier defensive team and now move on to face the winner of the Celtics-Bucks series, which we now know is going to Game 7 as they look to make another run into the NBA Finals. Back to you, Mike.
My, oh my, how disappointing was James Harden. It was just another year, another disappointment for Mr. James, but we will get into that deeper into the show. But thank you, Albert, for the report. Ken has a quick report for us from the NFL concerning the GOAT, Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. What's going on, Ken?
Yes, sir. So Tom Brady, GOAT on the field, as you mentioned, but soon to be GOAT in the booth. Well, Fox is predicting that future, as reported by the CEO of Fox, Lachlan Murdoch himself, in an investor meeting earlier this week. Fox is throwing the bag at Tom with a record-breaking $375 million contract spanning 10 years, starting the year after he retires, whenever that may be. This contract is twice as large as Tony Romo's CBS contract and shows how networks are lining up to fill their booths with big names to call NFL games. Brady's NFL analyst contract would make him the 8th highest player in the NFL, but he wouldn't need to worry about defensive linemen sacking him anymore, and he'd only be working 20 on-air days a season. Right now, Tony Romo is the gold standard as far as in-game analysis from a former star quarterback. What will Tom bring to the table when he finally hangs up his cleats for good? Well, only time will tell. Could be next year or in 30 years. Back to you, Mike.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Brady's style is going to be. I mean, you have Tony Romo, who's super entertaining and just talks really quick, very analytical. So it's going to be interesting to see what Brady's style is going to be. But I appreciate the report, Ken. We're going to stay with the NFL, and EJ is giving us a report about the NFL's very first game that's going to be played in Germany this coming season. What's going on there, E?
Yeah, Mike. So the National Football League have 4 scheduled regular season games that will be held in Europe this upcoming season. Now, 3 of them will be in London, but as you mentioned, the NFL will be making its debut in Germany this upcoming season. And the 2 teams that will be featured are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Seattle Seahawks. The matchup will be held in Alliance Arena, which is best known as the home of the football club Bayern Munich. Now, Tom Brady, if of course healthy, will have the chance to earn the Buccaneers' first overseas victory, as this is the third time that the Bucs are playing outside of the United States but have been winless in all of those contests. Now, the Seahawks, on the other hand, are 2-1 in international regular season games. So the Bucs and the Seahawks are set to play on November 13 at 9:30 in the morning Eastern Time, which is an early morning treat for fans in the United States. So back to you, Mike.
That is going to be a painful game to watch because we all know how bad the Seahawks are going to be this year. So we will keep you guys posted on that game. But thanks, I really do appreciate it. And that is going to be the reports for this week as far as the world of sports goes. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to tackle the NBA. EBC Sports International will return in a moment. Welcome back, sports fans. So our first topic for tonight is breaking down the NBA's Western Conference semifinal matchup between the Dallas Mavericks and the Phoenix Suns, who are heading to a Game 7 tomorrow, or Sunday, I'm sorry. It's been a lopsided matchup this far, with the home team dominating each game. So Albert, we're going to start with you tonight. What are your general thoughts on the series so far?
I think it's safe to say that this is one of the more entertaining series for sure. All of them are entertaining in their own sense. The fact that we have two young superstars going head to head in Luka Doncic and Devin Booker, which we all hope will be a rivalry in the years to come for sure. And I'm sure these two will run into each other in the playoffs in the future. Like what you said, it's been a back and forth series. Actually, the home team for each game has won. And I'm sure the Dallas Mavericks are going to try to break that trend in Game 7. The Dallas Mavericks actually cruised to a huge blowout win, I should say, in Game 6. Now tied 3-3, and Doncic, we know his history with regards to the playoffs. His name being mentioned in some stats with only him and Michael Jordan, and he, in fact, in playoff elimination games, he is averaging a staggering 39 points. And again, and in such a young career, it's impressive to sort of see where he's going to go and where his ceiling actually is. Of course, it's going to take another monumental game for the Dallas Mavericks to overcome the Suns in Game 7. But I'm sure this is must watch basketball for everybody, and we'll all be tuning in to watch Game 7.
Man, oh man, it's just been like so much drama in this series, right? It's been like a roller coaster, literally. I mean, you have Luka, who's just been absolutely tearing it up on the offensive side of the ball. You have Chris Paul, who's been like up and down all series. You have Booker, who's been up and down all series, and it's just been, man, the emotions have just been all over the place. So with starting with the Mavericks, EJ, what do the Mavs have to do to win Game 7?
Yeah, man. So, I mean, as Albert mentioned, we all know Doncic, man. He's got to perform well, and statistics say he does. I mean, puts up good numbers in elimination games. He mentioned it, 39 points per game. That's number one in NBA history right now, and that's at a minimum of at least three games. Of any player in NBA history, it's Luka Doncic who puts up the most points per game. And actually, in terms of playoff scorer, literally just the playoffs, he's number 2 behind Michael Jordan in points per game. So a young career so far for Doncic, but it's been dazzling to say the least. But the key for the Mavs is in the others. Jalen Brunson, Dinwiddie. They have to continue to contribute offensively, especially when Doncic is on the bench resting. Obviously, he's going to have to take a breath here and there because he puts in a lot of effort on the offensive end. And then Dorian Finney-Smith and Reggie Bullock, they have been also great this series for the Mavericks, but this is when it matters the most, Game 7, man. So they also have to contribute this coming Sunday. Now, if we look at the entire series, when the Mavs are able to hold the Suns to 101 points, they win. So they have to keep the pressure up on defense. Chris Paul, as you mentioned, Mike, he's been careless with the ball. I think this is like a career high for him in terms of turnovers. And they have to keep pressuring Chris Paul the same way then. And then the Mavs, they know what they need to do to win. They were able to take care of business in Dallas, so they have to play that same game this time on the road. Game 7, do or die. They got to lay it out on the line, man. So that's the keys for the Mavericks.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned Chris Paul being careless with the ball, because last series against the Pelicans, I think his ratio was like, for every 9 assists, he had like 1 turnover. So, I mean, it was just absolutely incredible what changed in this series. Just because I think I guess it's Bullock or Bullock, I don't know. I guess he said he wants his last name pronounced differently, but he's a lot different defender than Alvarado and Herbert from the Pelicans last series. So, I mean, you have a lot better defenders, but really good points, EJ. On the other side of the coin, Ken, obviously the Suns are on a mission because, last season they made it all the way to the finals and they fell short against the Bucks. So do you sense that they're going to get the W this Sunday?
Well, I mean, no away team has won in this series yet. And but it's kind of a weird situation where each game is almost a blowout, right? For the winning team, for the home team. And, if that pattern continues, then obviously it's favoring the Suns. Suns, as annoying as it is, they have a great home crowd, right? I mean, they support their team very well. It's extremely loud in Phoenix in their renovated arena. But at the same time, too, like, the entire game, as mentioned by the others, falls on Chris Paul's shoulders. I mean, that perfect game that he played against the Pelicans to like 14 for 14 to put him away, that they're going to need that vintage performance, and not the performance of the last 4 games. Let me put these numbers out for you. So the first 2 games of the series, both at Phoenix, 19 points, 3 assists, 5 rebounds, right? 28 points in game 2, 8 assists, 6 rebounds. Then he started dropping off a cliff. Game 3, 12 points. This was on his birthday, right? 12 points, 37th birthday. 12 points. I think he just turned old out of nowhere. 12 points, 4 assists, 7 rebounds, and 7 turnovers. What were you doing the night before, Chris Paul? And it seemed like it just continued to get worse, right? Game 4, 5 points. Wow. And 7 assists, 5 rebounds. Game 5, 7 points, 10 assists, 4 turnovers. And game 6, 13 points, 4 assists, and 5 turnovers. That's not very Chris Paul. I'm thinking that him and Cliff Paul went on a vacation the night before game 3, and just like Chris Paul is nowhere to be found, and this is Cliff Paul playing, because these are not Chris CP3 numbers. This is CP37. Like, these are embarrassing numbers from a Hall of Fame point guard in a series that they need to clinch. And in order for them to win this game 7, he's going to need to perform the way that he's been traditionally held to. And the difficult thing with him, and this is what I said before the beginning of the series, before the beginning of the season, when everyone was talking about how this may be the Suns' year, like I knew for a fact that Chris Paul, just from his body of work in the playoffs, tends to get more and more hurt as the playoff series evolve every single year. It seems like he gets hurt somehow, and it affects his game. Last year, I forgot it. I don't know if it was his hand or his finger that happened against the Lakers, that pretty much hindered and hurt him the entire playoffs. This time, I don't know what it was. It's his 37th birthday, but it's been he has not been that same dude the last 4 games. And in order for them to have a chance to move on to the Western Conference Finals to face either the Grizzlies or the Warriors, like he has to turn back the hands of time, because this is just this is not him. And also, as EJ mentioned, in order for the Suns to win, just like how the Mavs need their others to step up, the Suns' others need to step up. Cam Johnson, where are you, bro? Like, you need to show up. You need to wake up. Miles Bridges, where are you too? Like, it's these guys, all great defenders, but I think they're losing confidence with how Dallas is playing their defense. They are allowing, just like what they did in the Utah series, they are allowing the Suns to get as many 2-point as they want, right? So you're seeing DeAndre Ayton get as many layups as he wants on these like short range, but they're closing out hard in all the 3-point shots. And so they're giving up 2s for 3s. And when the Dallas others are on and they're killing it from the 3-point line, I mean, the coach of the year is getting out coached by Jason Kidd. And it's extremely apparent. And if Coach Monty does not adjust in this final game and allows Dallas to have that same game plan, then it might be the Dallas Mavericks moving on to the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, that's a good point that you mentioned about Phoenix's philosophy in that, or actually no, Dallas's philosophy in that they're giving the Phoenix Suns all the 2-pointers, but really guarding the 3-point line well. But it's definitely the opposite for Phoenix, because it seems like they're clogging the lanes, making it hard for Luka to score layups, but he's getting guys wide open for 3s, and that's why they've been hitting like 18 to 23s.
Yep. Feast or famine, really, for the Mavs. That's all it is. And
yeah,
I mean, they were feasting last game. Feasting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. But great takes, guys. Appreciate it. So we're gonna shift over to the NBA MVP. So basically, we have Nikola Jokic winning the second MVP for the second consecutive season. He led with the most votes, and Joel Embiid, the 76ers center, received the second most votes. EJ, do you agree with the outcome?
Yeah, so, for me, I thought that Embiid was the clear-cut winner to the MVP this season, but that was honestly based solely on the eye test and the games that I just happened to catch, watching the 76ers, because he's looked impressive, and he's been the one carrying that team, especially with, the whole Ben Simmons situation, right? But, taking a closer look at the numbers, though, it was actually a lot closer of a contest than I originally thought. So Jokic this season averaged 27.1 points, 13.8 rebounds, and 7.9 assists, while Embiid averaged 30.6 points per game, 11.7 rebounds, and 4.2 assists. So again, very close when it comes to those numbers, right? Record-wise, it was also the same thing. There's only a 3-game difference between the Sixers record and the Nuggets. So again, that was even close. And I know that that's always taken into account when it comes to MVPs, the record for the team, right? So honestly, I don't think it could have gone wrong now either way, because Jokic numbers actually improved from last year. And I think that was the tipping point, because he won that MVP last year, and for him to improve on his numbers, it kind of the same thing that happened to Giannis a couple years ago when he won his back-to-back MVPs. He put up stellar numbers, and then the following season followed it up with even better numbers. So I have no complaints for me now after I look at the data that Jokic gets back-to-back MVPs. So no complaints anymore for me.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, also, you have to look at like their surrounding team too. I mean, you look at Jokic's team. Yeah. Michael Porter Jr. was out the whole season. Jamal Murray out the whole season. And I mean, 76ers still had their team, basically their core team together. So I'm pretty sure they took that into account as well. Ken, share with us some of your thoughts. Why do you think Jokic edged out Embiid to win the MVP?
I think if I'm saying this, like, just trying to figure it out, right? Other than the points you guys made, I think if James Harden didn't get traded, even though he was like not as useful as he should have been, James Harden didn't get traded to the 76ers, and they kept Seth Curry, and Drummond, I think Joel Embiid would have had a higher amount of first place votes with the voters. I think with James Harden switching over to the 76ers, the narrative shifted from Joel leading this team, other than the fact that he also hurt his wrist, I believe his right wrist, like towards the end of the season. I think the narrative changed that he has help now since Ben wasn't playing, right? And I think that change, like, and it's all like, you know, MVP votes are all about narratives. And so I think that's what switched it over. And as you mentioned, no Jamal Murray, no Michael Porter Jr. for Nikola Jokic, and Aaron Gordon is not a strong enough number 2 to get anything done. I mean, he's great 3-4 for any like strong team, but number 2, that's not enough. But like, you know, it's just the carry job that Jokic did. I mean, EJ laid out his stats, but you know, also the big difference, because they're pretty similar as far as like the scoring, the rebounding, but the dimes, the assists, 7.9 dimes per game for Jokic, while Embiid this year it was a career high 4.2, but that's a big stark difference. And then if you also talk eye test, I mean, just the amount of setups that Jokic does for his team, it's just ridiculous. I mean, it's Draymond Green level, but with a shot, right? I mean, look at Jokic's percentage too: 58.3% from the field, 33.7% from beyond the arc, 81% from the free throw line, and he also had career defensive years, a career in the defense, 0.9 blocks per game and 1.5 steals per game. I think that in itself seals the deal for Jokic. And I mean, did you see the how he was presented? He came into his like a barn in a chariot, right? Like on a sideways chariot, and like received his award, and his coach flew in to Serbia to greet him. I mean, it's like, no matter what Embiid did, it's not going to top that. That's just like the most unique way to receive an award as we've ever seen in NBA history. So, you know, big ups to Nikola. It's not the sexy pick. It really isn't. You know, everyone loves seeing like someone new, but I think it was the correct pick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally get your sentiment on that. I mean, like I said on the show many times before, I mean, if records weren't even taken into account, I mean, LeBron wins it like hands down. I mean,
I mean, like every year,
37, it's
every year that Michael Jordan was on the floor in the Bulls, I mean, he should have been the MVP. So,
absolutely.
You know, let's be real.
Oh yeah, totally. It's definitely one of those things. Albert, can you share with us your thoughts on the MVP race?
Yeah, same settlement as the other two had already said. I mean, we knew at the end of the All-Star break, it was a 2-horse race between Embiid and Jokic. But I think what everyone keeps saying is that the MVP award, we have to remember it's an award that makes everyone in a team better. And the fact that Jokic is the only player in the 21-22 season to lead his team in all stats, whether it be points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. He also was first in the NBA in total number of triple doubles and double doubles as well too. Yes, like what Ken said, the sexier pick would have been Embiid because of the fact that he does have the scoring title. But I think as NBA fans and the media who voted for it got it right, because they sort of zoomed out and sort of saw who made a bigger impact for their team given what they had, right? We already talked about the fact that Murray and MPJ were out for the whole season, yet Jokic was still able to improve his numbers and get his team to where it was. And I think Ken was right. The fact that Harden was brought over to the 76ers, it sort of changed that narrative to say, hey, Embiid now has help, so he's probably not doing as much, so the award is probably going to shift a little bit more towards Jokic. So I think all those points, ultimately, it was close, but I think they did get it right in the fact that Jokic did deserve that MVP. And shout out to his, not chariot, I think was his racing horse, where he sort of accepted the award.
Man, race horses. I love it. I love it. Thanks for your takes, guys. Really do appreciate it. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the recent game that just finished, Bucks versus Celtics, EBC Sports International. We'll return in a moment. Welcome back, everybody. You're watching EBC Sports International. I'm your host, Michael Hudson. So we're going to shift over to the Eastern Conference semifinals, the other matchup between the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks, where the series is tied 3-3, and it is also going to a Game 7. So Albert, or actually, no, I'm sorry, EJ or Ken. Gosh, I'm just going through everybody tonight. Ken, what are some of your takeaways on the series so far?
Yeah, well, it's a great series. It really is. I think one of the better ones as far as game per game and just like the drama per game. Yeah, this Game 6, great. Let's talk about this real quick. Jason Tatum, 46 points. Yo, that's crazy. The guy went off and especially lifted his team in the fourth quarter. He had 7 3-pointers today. And for the Bucks, I mean, it was pretty much all Giannis because the Celtics had also Smart putting in 21 and Brown putting in 22. Giannis was the sole, him and Drew, pretty much the sole contributors for the Bucks tonight. 44 points, 20 rebounds, 6 assists, but 6 turnovers. Right, and Drew had 17 points, and Pat Connaughton came out and over 14 points. But everyone else struggled, right? Grayson Allen 1 for 7. That's not gonna win the series for you against this Boston team. And the game that everyone has to talk that's been probably the game of the playoffs was Game 5 the other day between the Bucks and the Celtics, where the Bucks came roaring back in the fourth quarter and had that magical finish where Drew Holiday just turned into this defensive player of the year in Marcus Smart, and just ripped. I mean, that was probably one of the dopest plays I've ever seen in defense. Not the steal to seal the game. But that
he stole it, he blocked it and put it off.
No, it was a block steal, right? Marcus thought he had a wide open layup, block steal, and then threw it off Marcus's chest so that they could get the ball. And I was just like, this dude, Drew was struggling the entire game, and then in the fourth quarter, like the last 4 minutes, it was the Drew show. And not only that, Giannis, not a surprise that he was struggling from the 3 the entire series, and then puts up that 3-pointer late in the fourth quarter to pretty much get them down from 6 to down 3. Because if he would have missed that, like they would have, I think there was like a minute or 2 left in the game, and that probably would have, the Celtics would have extended that lead to maybe 8 points, 10 points, and it would have been, up 3-2 instead of now tied 3-3. And so Marcus Smart, and Jason Tatum, I think, were the reasons why the Celtics imploded in that fourth quarter. Jason Tatum tried to beat Kobe, but couldn't beat Kobe as far as those mid-range pull-ups. And then Marcus Smart tried to be Magic Johnson, but was Tragic Johnson with throwing that ball away multiple times. Oh, I was like, what are you doing? It was like
turnovers in a row. Horrible.
It was, I mean, Drew, and like, it's like, why are you even trying to bring the ball up with Drew Holiday, the guy that's been hounding you like all series long? It's just, I mean, this is a great series, and it's really showing you how, I mean, Jason Tatum, yes, he has evolved into one of the best players in the league, but I think right now, Giannis is the best player in the league, and he's showing it because they're doing this. They're keeping this series close because, like, Celtics are favored. They're the home team, right? This is going back to Boston for Game 7, and this is going to Game 7 without Chris Middleton this entire series. that's saying something about Milwaukee. And I think, they missed them today, but I think if they have that championship mentality for Game 7, then watch out, Boston, because the Bucks have that confidence.
Oh, totally agree, man. And speaking of Middleton, Albert, Middleton's been out for this whole series, a good portion of the last series against the Bulls. Who in particular on Milwaukee has to step up in Game 7 for them to get the dub?
I think we've already mentioned his name more or less on the defensive end, and it's Jrue Holiday. He's obviously the easy go-to guy after Giannis. I mean, if your star player is giving you 44 and 20, the next person up definitely has to sort of be in the shadow and do what he can to sort of help get the team that W, right? Today, for Game 6, I should say, Holiday actually only shot 3 for 10 from the three-point line and only 17 points. I mean, the whole supporting cast has to step up with the absence of Middleton, whether that be, Bobby Portis coming off the bench, Grayson Allen was missing, Wesley Matthews. I mean, in Game 6, the Bucks shot 7 for 29 from 3. That's definitely not going to cut it. I mean, Ken already said himself, Jason Tatum had 7 threes by himself. So in order for them to steal Game 7 in Boston, which is going to be very tough, Jrue Holiday is going to be that primary person aside from Giannis to sort of help carry the load for the Bucks. And then aside from that, the other supporting cast, they just have to be able to hit their open shots. I mean, everyone threw up zeros today. Wesley Matthews 0 for 2, Grayson Allen 0 for 4, Brook Lopez 0 for 2, Bobby Portis 0 for 3. That's not going to cut it. Giannis, hopefully he can muster up the will again and score another 40 points plus, because it looks like that's what they need in order to beat this very heavily favored Boston Celtics team going into Game 7.
Yeah, definitely great point. On the other side of the coin, EJ, with the Celtics, very, very impressive win the other night. What do you think they have to do to carry that momentum in Game 7?
Yeah, man, I think the answer to that is easy. It's to stop Giannis. Execution-wise, how to do that, that's not easy. But that's the solution for them to win Game 7, is to stop Giannis. I mean, like he said, like everybody's already pointed out, 40 points, 20 rebounds. I mean, the guy does everything for the team, and this is without Chris Middleton. And, I watched this video once on YouTube, with Giannis, and he answered that question before. How do teams stop you, Giannis? You know what he said? He said, build a wall, because otherwise Giannis said it's impossible to handle him one-on-one. And so that's what the Celtics need to do. They need to build a wall, because no one else on the Bucks will be able to carry the load if Giannis is neutralized. So again, no Middleton. So that's their main focus. That's the guy that they need to stop. Again, easier said than done, because the last Game 7 that Giannis was in, it was in the NBA Finals, where he dropped 50 points. He hit all his free throws, and he led the Bucks ultimately to a championship. So there's no pressure on the Bucks. There's no pressure on the shoulders of Giannis, but there's definitely a lot on Tatum's. And, Tatum needs to have another signature, if not career-defining game, if the Celtics want to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals in Game 7.
Well, I could tell you this Game 7 is going to definitely be one that's going to be remembered for quite some time. It kind of gives me that same feeling of last year when Celtics and the Nets went to Game 7, kind of that same intensity. So it's definitely going to be a grind, and I think it's a coin flip at this point. So we'll see how that pans out on Sunday. But we're gonna move on to the other Eastern Conference semifinal matchup that just concluded the other day. You had the Miami Heat beating the Philadelphia 76ers 4-2, as was reported earlier on our show. A lot of the talk is about James Harden once again disappointing the world in his performance in the series, basically scoring 0 points in the second half in the clinching loss. So, Albert, we're going to go to you on this one. On a scale of 1 to 10, how impressive was James Harden in the series?
I'm going to give him a 2. Only for the 2 shots that he took after halftime. And again, like what you said, missing them both. he had that one game, I think it was game 4, where he scored 31 points. So we'll give him that. But other than that, when Embiid is not 100%, we mentioned this before, and the fact that, you know, he has that facial fracture, and we know that he's dealing with his thumb injury. You sort of lean on help. And you made that big trade at the trade deadline, and the fact that Harden didn't step up to the plate, he wasn't even the second best player of the team. I'd give that to Tyrese Maxey, who we've seen his growth just throughout the season and in the playoffs. I mean, in an elimination game where everything is on the line, you sort of want to see everyone's best and everyone put their best foot forward. Harden finished the game 4 for 9, and like what we keep saying, 0 points in the second half. At some point you have to sort of read what's on the wall, and with this ongoing trend with Harden and the disappointment in the playoffs, maybe this is just who he is. You know, age is something that no one can ever beat, and he's not getting any younger. Everyone keeps talking about that hamstring injury, and he's unable to sort of push off and do what he's able to do in previous years. And it's sort of tough because at some point you have to ask yourself, where do the 76ers go from here? Embiid was actually quoted saying that he thought that they were going to get the Harden of the Houston Rockets, but even that didn't come to fruition because, again, look at the result. So I'm going to give a Harden a 2. I don't know what the 76ers do with him and his heavy contract looming up, whether they sign him or not and give him that extension. It's going to be definitely interesting to sort of see what plays out for these 76ers.
Man, oh man. Very sad day for Philly Nation. So let's go on to the positive side. EJ, you know, Miami Heat, pretty impressive victory in this series. What do you think they did that basically gave them the W in the series?
Yeah, man. I mean, they did what they do, and that's play great defense. That's what they're known for, man. And you know what? The others also stepped up. The Heat are deep, bro. I mean, you forget that Victor Oladipo was once an all-star who could take over a game, and this guy is basically a 6-man. You know, remember, they signed Duncan Robinson to a pretty good contract, and this guy's barely getting any minutes anymore because that's how deep the Heat are, right? I mean, so aside from the great defense and the others stepping up, they took care of business at home. Again, the first 2 games without Embiid, the Heat took advantage, did what they needed to do. You know, Sixers get Embiid back, and then they win games 3 and 4. So they took care of business at their home, but ultimately the Heat came back home and won game 5. So now they gave themselves a scenario, a closeout game for the Heat in game 6. Although on the road, the leader of the pack, Jimmy Butler, had his signature big playoff game. So, you know, when all those things are happening, good defense, others stepping up, and then to close it out, your best player puts their best foot forward and puts another signature performance. How else would the Heat lose this series? There's no way. They played great and took care of business when they needed to. Yeah,
well, PJ, if you're watching the show, I'm sure you are still celebrating the victory right now. So looking forward to have you on the show again to share your joy about it. Ken, you know, with the Sixers going back to the drawing board, obviously, for the offseason, what moves do you anticipate them making to the roster?
Personally, as a Laker fan, I would like them to keep Doc Rivers so that we don't have to worry about those rumors of him switching over to the purple and gold, because that would be devastating. You know, over and over again, we talked about this off cam, like, it just seems like Doc, when his back is against the wall and or he loses, he doesn't do it graciously, and he throws everyone except for himself under the bus. And he continues to do this practice. And I don't know how players, executives, and like fellow coaches can support this, because it's not great for this NBA quote unquote brotherhood. And I think that, Philly will unfortunately have at least another year of this. James Harden is owed $47 million next year, and potentially
that was like 54
47. But then also he's due for an extension of $223 million, so a $270 million contract potential. But he fumbled the bag. All he needed to do was play like all caliber NBA stats wise, or just even eye test wise, and he wasn't able to do that. He declined an extension with the Rockets. He declined an extension with the Nets, and he didn't extend right away when he signed on with the 76ers. And this may be an all-time blunder, because he could have been the highest paid NBA player ever. And I don't know what the 76ers can do now. Bite this $47 million, or trade him back for John Wall to Houston, or trade him for Russell Westbrook, or and maybe like THT. You can take him too. I mean, I don't mind having James Harden on this team, on my team, over Russell Westbrook again, honestly. So my choice, my suggestion.
All right. Well, we'll definitely see what happens with that, but I do not envy the Philly front office by any means. So great takes, fellas. We're going to take one last break, and when we come back, we're going to talk NFL and then tackle our question of the show. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back, sports fans. So the NFL schedule was officially released yesterday, but Baker Mayfield of the Cleveland Browns is still in a pretty tough predicament as we speak. He's still part of the Cleveland Browns roster and is due $18.9 million this upcoming season, even though newly acquired quarterback Deshaun Watson was recently added. So many experts predicted that Baker would be traded during the NFL draft that happened 2 weeks ago, but nothing materialized. So EJ, what's going on with the Baker Mayfield situation right now?
Yeah, man, honestly, I don't really know, man. It's still on the Browns roster, as you mentioned, looking for a trade before the season starts. Now is the situation, because they weren't able to make that trade during the draft. So, there are talks, however, about Panthers being linked to a potential deal. It is also on the radar of the Seattle Seahawks, not for a trade, but if Baker ends up getting cut for some reason, not able to find a deal, he could get cut. Then, Seahawks are also on the list of those intrigued. And honestly, who wouldn't be? I mean, Baker Mayfield has, although come up short in the playoffs, he has been terrific in the regular season and gives his team a chance. And that's all you really need in the NFL, is a chance in the playoffs. And if you make it to the playoffs, anything can happen. 0-0, usually the favored, Tom Brady's teams of the world, would be the ones favored to win. But, Baker Mayfield is still a great quarterback. And honestly, if the Browns don't find a trade, I don't see a problem with them keeping him on the roster, especially with Deshaun Watson not playing last season, not knowing what you're going to get with him coming into this season. It's a good backup plan to, if anything does happen or materializes with the Deshaun Watson situation, and forbid he doesn't get to show up on the field, you still have Baker Mayfield. But I know Baker Mayfield doesn't want to be in that situation personally, but, as the Browns, who holds, his future in their hands, the Browns, are the ones ultimately who will make the decision. But we're just going to have to wait and see where Baker lands. Honestly, I wish we had the Commanders had waited just a little bit longer, for the news that the Browns get Deshaun Watson, so that we don't pay a guy like Carson Wentz. Because honestly, I would have definitely preferred, a Baker Mayfield, and I think we would have had a good chance of getting him if we didn't sign Carson Wentz.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's crazy how people don't realize that Mayfield was injured basically the entire season last year. I mean, he had a torn rotator cuff. I mean, he had to get shoulder surgery at the end of the season. So I mean, that's one of the reasons why his production went down so much. I think personally he should have just sat out, but obviously he was trying to play for that big contract and it backfired. But I just find it pretty interesting that not many people mention that. But, Albert, EJ just talked about, possible destinations, things of that nature. Do you even think Baker has what it takes to lead a team to the Super Bowl?
I think it's tough to say, given the fact that the Deshaun Watson trade happened a little over a month ago and still no traction in any sort of trades. EJ made mention of the Panthers and the Seahawks, but they actually went out and saying that they're not going to trade for him, which sort of gives an indication as to how much he's wanted. Of course, if there's a quarterback who's known to sort of lead the team and be able to carry a team to the Super Bowl, of course the demand would be there. But with Baker sort of sitting on the sidelines, and we know how disgruntled he is now with the Cleveland Browns, it's sort of tough to say if he is ever going to lead a team to the Super Bowl. Again, like what you said, he's just a year given off his prime with that the playoff berth, but again with his injury as well too, it's sort of tough to say whether or not he is actually going to be able to lead a team to the Super Bowl. It's sort of up in the air for me. Yeah,
totally, man. That's definitely is definitely going to be up in the air. Ken, there's still teams interested. They're probably more than likely going to wait for him to get cut before signing him. Which team or teams do you think Baker would be the best fit for?
This might be a surprising team, but I think the Bucks should consider it.
Interesting.
If he gets waived, because think about it. I mean, now that Tom Brady has this option of having that $325 million Booth contract, NFL analyst contract after he's done, I don't foresee him playing another season after this one, especially if they lose early or they don't have like a great season. And his contract is, extremely team friendly. So, Baker Mayfield can sign with the Bucks, sit for a year, do his commercials on the side, and then once Tom Brady's rides into the sunset for real this time, then it's his team. I think that would be an interesting choice.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. That would be interesting because he'd be backup obviously, but learning from the GOAT. So he would definitely. I
would hold Tom Brady's clipboard for a year.
Oh yeah, who wouldn't? You have Aaron Rodgers who did it for Brett Favre for 3 or 4 years, and look how he's turned out. So it definitely would be beneficial for him. So we'll see what happens in the next few weeks. But now we're going to go to our question of the week, guys. Mother's Day was last weekend. We didn't have our show last week, but wanted to wish all of the mothers a belated happy Mother's Day. But wanted to give our channel a chance to share with the viewers their favorite sports memory that includes their mom. So I'm going to start first. So one memory of mine was definitely 1998 NBA Finals. It was tradition for our family to always watch every Michael Jordan game on TV as a family. And I just remember how excited my mom would be during the games, especially with us. And when Jordan hit that game-winning shot against Utah, whew, man, it was the greatest Hudson celebration in our life. So Mom, if you're watching, love you. Thank you for everything that you do. Albert, how about you, my man?
Mine would actually go with the during the 2019 Raptors NBA championship run. I actually had tickets to Game 5, so I was fortunate enough to snag a pair.
Nice.
Yeah, and of course it was just before Mother's Day, that Game 5. So as an early Mother's Day present, I took my mom to that game. And of course, the actual Mother's Day was the day of the Kawhi shot. So I guess that's the Raptors present for my mom on Mother's Day. But like what you said, I think with my mom, she sort of raised me up to be the sports fan that I was, and her passion as well too. So happy Mother's Day, Mom. I love you as well.
Thanks for sharing that story, man. Ken, how about you, dude?
Yeah, so growing up, we were pretty broke. So, we didn't have many opportunities to go to games, but there was only one time we did get to go as a family. We all went to the Laker game versus actually the Raptors. This was 10 years ago, actually 11 years ago in 2011. So that was one of my favorite memories because it's literally the one and only time that we all got to be together to watch my team, Kobe Bryant, the late great Kobe Bryant, beat the Raptors like he did, but not the 81 points.
That was gonna be my next question. Was it the 81-point game?
Oh, I wish, bro. No way.
The memory of a lifetime. That's awesome, man. EJ, how about you, dude?
Yeah, man. So for my mom, she used to be a manager at a bank, so she got some pretty good perks. One of her clients was Brian Westbrook. I don't know if you guys remember him from running back of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh yeah.
And I was the father of Brian Westbrook, and I was able to get a signed card by him just randomly. And then another one was I was able to go to a Washington Wizards practice event, I guess, and I was able to meet Gilbert Arenas, who was my favorite player at the time, and got a signed hat and basketball. Not with me over here, still in my parents' house, but Mom, you're the real MVP.
Agent Zero, man, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, man.
That's great. Were you saying, Ken? Did you say something?
I just said hibachi.
Hibachi, yep. Cooking.
Yes, sir. Hey, thanks for sharing your memories, guys. And again, happy belated Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. And thank you, viewers, for taking the time to join with us in this week's episode. Hope for you guys to tune in again next week. And then please make sure to visit our websites at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com and watch us on Net25, like us on Facebook, and also follow us on Twitter at Eagle News to join the conversation. This is EBC Sports International. I'm Michael Hudson. We'll see you next time, sports fans.